down the field. Happy tossing dimes, cup $1 million deal. Fantasy football, better know it's real. Tune into the podcast, tell us how you feel. We be going live, best believe we talk.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Football from Up North podcast. This is going to be your week 4 recap show. I'm your host, Clayton, riding solo again, like usual for these Sunday recap shows. There's lots to get into, so we're just going to jump pretty much right into it and give you what you need to know after today's games. And got a lot of injuries, a lot of big name injuries to talk about here today. So we'll talk about that as the games go on. But just start off here, we're going to start with the early game. The Minnesota Vikings at the Saints in London. Vikings took this game 28-25. Big thing here was first thing this morning, after having no update on Kamara or anything like that. Everyone thought he was ready to go. All of a sudden, becomes inactive today. So sits out due to an injury. So everybody, myself included, ran out to go and get, of course, Mark Ingram, because, of course, he's a handcuff. So we thought. But if we go break it down here, we're going to look at who actually led in this backfield. It was, well, they both split carries pretty much even across the board, 11 to 10. Latavius Murray looked like the way more explosive back. He went 11 for 57 and had the rushing touchdown. Was only targeted once in the passing game, but it looks to me that Latavius Murray is the immediate handcuff to Kamara. So because we know the injury history to Kamara, so if you have Kamara, I think Latavius Murray is going to, and he's most likely going to be an ad this week on the waiver wire. Not a huge priority ad, but if you have Kamara and you want to handcuff him with somebody, it's going to be Latavius Murray in this backfield. So if we want to break down the game itself, talk about Chris Olave, with the lack of pass catchers that this team was lacking, with no sorry, I'm drawing a blank here, with no Michael Thomas. Sorry. I'm trying to look at all these things. Michael Thomas, banged up. No Kamara. We were wondering who's going to step up. Chris Olave continues to be, be the guy in this offense. Doesn't matter who's throwing the ball to him. We saw him go for, he had another 4 receptions, 67 yards, and a touchdown today. And Marquez Callaway is the one that led with the most snap counts. He was on the field for 58 snaps compared to 41 for Olave. Landry didn't do too much. It was only targeted 2 times in this one. And on the Minnesota side, we saw a big monster game by Justin Jefferson. 10 receptions for almost 150 yards. Also had a rushing a carry in this one too, and a rushing touchdown, which was a little bit crazy to see. But I mean, we knew this going into it. Justin Jefferson, there was no need to worry about him. Did come out kind of, it was a slow day for him, but he came out, he bounced back in a huge way. And that's about, that's about it for this game. Not too much other excitement. I guess Dalvin Cook, we should talk about that. 20 for 76. He didn't look too hampered by the shoulder injury that he did have. He pretty much, he took care of all the snaps in this one. He played almost 50 snaps in this game, so no need to worry about Dalvin Cook. Madison did get a touchdown today, but that's just, they spelled them a little bit, and that's when Madison did get on the field. So all right, next team we're going to talk about is the LA Chargers and the Houston Texans. Well, of course, there's the worry going into this game was what was going to happen with how slow Austin Eckler has started this year, and that pretty much came to rest. He rushed for 60 yards, 2 touchdowns on 13 carries today, and then he caught 6 passes for another 49 yards and 1 touchdown as well. So Austin Eckler, he's back. There's no need to really worry. We knew he was going to get going. That's kind of what he does, but no need to worry about him whatsoever. And then on the Houston side of the ball, another running back finally had a nice breakout game, what we like to see. 14 carries, 131 yards, 1 touchdown, another 6 receptions on this day. Dameon Pierce, he's clearly the front. He is the only running back to own on this team. He was on field 40 snaps in this one and dominated against his Chargers D. Granted, it was a 75-yard touchdown he did have, but he still looked good. He still looked explosive. As far as the passing game goes, on the Houston side, it's Brandon Cooks, Nico Collins are pretty much only two you want to own, and then with no Keenan Allen again, we saw Mike Williams. 65 snaps played. I'll just grab his stats here real quick. 7 catches for 120 yards, no touchdowns, but he led this team in targets with 11. And once again, Gerald Everett slowly sneaking in to be, could be a finish as a top 5 option if he continues to produce at the level he's producing. 5 for 61 and 1 touchdown as well. A shocking thing, who was going to be this wide receiver 2? Everybody expected it to be Josh Palmer. It was, in fact, DeAndre Carter. He played more snaps than Josh Palmer. Either of them didn't do too much anyways. Not really nothing to. I just thought I'd throw that out there because I was a little bit shocked when I did see the numbers. Only 3 targets for Carter. So, and then on the Texas side, not really anything to really talk about. Davis Mills, 246, 2 passing touchdowns. But like I said before, it was the Dameon Pierce show in this one, 14 for 131 and a score. So on to the next game we're going to just talk about is the Chicago Bears and the New York Giants. 20-12. The Giants are now 3-1. Playing good, decent, I guess. I don't know what else to how else to put this, but talk about Chicago real quick here. Just honestly, just a disaster this team is. Justin Fields only 174, and there was a little bit. It looked like Justin Fields is a little frustrated with this team. But I mean, is what it is. Khalil Herbert with Montgomery sitting out performed well. 19 carries for 77 yards. Only had 1 target on the day. Darnell Mooney, I had a question earlier this morning. He said, what are we going to do with Darnell Mooney? He's been absolutely irrelevant in fantasy for the last, pretty much for the first 3 weeks of the year. Comes back to life today in this one, and he went 4 catches for 94 yards on 5 targets only. This team is not throwing the ball enough to make any of these receivers relevant, and it just seems that they're just going to continue. Doesn't matter who the running back is, they're just going to continue to run plays with this offense. Herbert played 48 snaps. Like I said, I mentioned, was targeted once. But on the Giants side of the ball, Saquon Barkley, he was my number 1 running back this week. 31 carries for 146 yards, 2 receptions for 16 yards. So unfortunately didn't get in the end zone. That would have just made his day even better. But we kind of knew this going into this with the fact that the Giants are hurting with receivers on the receiving side. One guy I did think that was going to step up big time was Richie James, and he was targeted three times all game, and he caught 1 ball, which was a little bit shocking to see because of the fact, like I mentioned, they're down. I mean, there's no Galladay continues just to be irrelevant. They're basically their wide receivers are Richie James and Darius Slayton. It was the rookie tight end, though, Daniel Bellinger, that did lead this team in receiving yards, 3 for 23. So nobody did anything good in this game. Daniel Jones is only 71 yards. So nothing really to talk about with this one. So Seattle Seahawks and Detroit Lions. This seems, going into this, I was like, this game will be all right. But as a matter of fact, this is the game to watch today, apparently. 48-45, the Seahawks pulled the win out. But, man, some of the stats in this game is just phenomenal. We got to talk about right off the hop the career game for TJ Hawkinson. He had a big game today. He was he went 8 for 179 and 2 touchdowns. We got word that DJ Chark was out, so we are expecting to see a lot more Josh Josh Reynolds, and we did see that as 7 for 81 and 1 touchdown on 8 targets. He's sneaky. If Amon St. Brown is banged up, Josh Reynolds seems to be like a favorite for Jared Goff. Jared Goff, on the other end, 378 through the air, 4 touchdowns. So if you started him in like a super flex or anything, he's going to continue. They're throwing like 30 plus times a game. Jared Goff is a guy that you're going to want to have, especially come bye weeks. I mean, he's a very productive quarterback, and it's showing for the 4 weeks in a row now. He's been a very efficient. So with no DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams stepped in admirably, 19 carries for 108 and 2 touchdowns. So we are kind of expecting that coming because we know how good Jamal Williams is, and he always seems to perform well in when he does have the opportunity. And honestly, on other teams, he could probably be a starter, to be honest with you, because he's that good, young, and he's good. So let's go to Seattle side. Also, some big numbers that come out of this game as well. Rashad Penny, 17 carries for $151 and 2 touchdowns. So he came to play today, and he seems to be. He's the man in his backfield until he gets banged up. I thought for sure he was going to be banged up, but he's out snapping Ken Walker 45-24 today. Rashad Penny, you could fire him up every week, especially with the fact that if the game's going to be like this and they're not only throwing, but they're giving him the ball almost 20 carries, 20 times a game. Penny's a definite fire up week to week. DK Metcalf, 7 for 149. Had a big game. Did get carted off, though. I'm not 100% sure the severity of the injuries, but we I believe it was an ankle injury, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens. I'll discuss more of the injuries on Tuesday's episode of the Waiver Wire. Just because I can go through them all, and you can find out the day after more once the tests are done and stuff like that, what the severity of these injuries are. If DK Metcalf was to miss some time, that fires Tyler Lockett right up into wide receiver 1 territory and must play every week. And he's been productive last 2 weeks in a row. He was 6 for 91 today on 8 targets. So another game to go to is Jacksonville and Philly. This game was a little scary at the start of the day because it was like a torrential downpour. So I was, telling people like downgrade all your, pretty much downgrade your receivers and stuff like that. And I mean, the run game was quite slow. If on the Philly side, I mean, Sanders did dominate, ran all over Jacksonville in this one. He was 27 carries for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he's dominating. And so, I mean, keep this in mind. If you are, playing Jacksonville, their run defense is horrendous. So, I mean, you could start your running back against Jacksonville any day of the week. Hurts was only just over 200 yards through the air, no touchdowns, and he was 16 for 38. So basically, it was torrential downpour. They decided to just heavy run game. That's all they did, and they showed that. AJ Brown, on the other hand, targeted 7 times, 5 for 95, and Dallas Goedert 5 for 72. So on the Jacksonville side, Lawrence only threw the ball, completed 11 passes on 23 attempts for 174 and 2 touchdowns. Their run game, on the other hand, Philly's defense is just outstanding. They are dominant week to week, shut down the run game here. They didn't even have a total of not even 90 yards on the ground. Etienne led. They split carries with Etienne and James Robinson, 8 apiece. Etienne was 32 yards to Robinson's 29. Christian Kirk, quiet day, 2 for 60. Jamal Agnew, 4 catches for 50 yards and 2 scores. So Philly just basically took out Christian Kirk, and that was about it. So, and on to the next game, which is the Kenny Pickett experiment, or not experiment. Sorry, the Trubisky experiment has now expired. He did get pulled in this one, and we did finally see the young buck come to play. Kenny Pickett. Mind you, he did throw 3 picks today, but we'll just fire that up to, rookie nerves and stuff like that. But overall, they can start. They're going to start to move the ball now downfield. It's going to be beneficial for guys like Deontay Johnson, George Pickens. George Pickens actually was great in this game. Targeted 8 times, 6 catches for 102 yards. Big breakout game for him. And when it comes to the snaps, is Deontay Johnson, Claypool, and Pickens is what we expected it to be. Pickens for, like I said, 6 for 102. Pat Freiermuth, 7 for 85 on 9 targets. He was the leading target getter in this one. And Najee Harris, just 74 yards on the ground, not even targeted once in this game. So this is going to be, I think you're going to see a different Pittsburgh team moving forward. I mean, I'm sure they didn't like the fact they lost to the Jets, but is what it is. I just think you see a different team come out the following week. So the Jets now, we will talk about, Wilson did come in, threw the ball 36 times, 252, 1 passing touchdown. Corey Davis, 5 for 74 and 1. Elijah Moore, 3 for 53. Leading target getter is Corey Davis. So Corey Davis now I think you can start to look at as he finished the season strong last year, and I think we're just going to continue to see him produce with Zach Wilson there. We didn't see too much of Garrett Wilson, 2 for 41. So, but I'll tell you this much: Breece Hall finally looks like this is his backfield. He outcarried Carter big time, 17 carries for 66 yards, got his touchdown, and was also targeted 6 times in the passing game. So he's clearly they're clearly trying to give him this backfield. You will see Michael Carter, in my opinion, is droppable from this point forward. Not really seeing too much action on the ground. He only had 9 carries for 15 yards. And then through the air, he was 2 catches for 14 on 3 targets. So it's basically Breece Hall's show. So just don't be worrying about, especially in redraft. Dynasty, you're going to hold on to Michael Carter, but in redraft, you can safely drop him from your rosters and open up space for somebody else. So Cleveland Browns at the Atlanta Falcons, another game that was, a little bit of up and down throughout the whole thing. We did see Atlanta, though, take this one 23-20. Talk about a couple things on this game here. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, we talk about it every single week. Just a dominant backfield. Chubb dominated today, over 118 yards, one touchdown, targeted 3 times. Now, David Njoku led this game, 5 for 73. I like the fact that if you have Njoku on your team, you can fire him up on a weekly basis, especially with Brissett throwing the ball. Brissett likes him. This is the most action we've kind of seen him have in pretty much in his whole career. He just seems to be used quite heavily. And Donovan Peoples-Jones, 6 for 71, was the leading target getter on this team. So that's just going to be something you can watch out for moving forward as well. So he's going to be a nice target for Brissett. And on the Atlanta side, jump over to this run game. Patterson was active in this game. I know he was a little bit banged up, but he was outsnapped by both Tyler Algier and Caleb Huntley in this one. So just something to keep an eye out for. Both of these guys are going to be most likely finding their way onto the waiver wire. Algier looked good, though, 10 for 84. And Huntley was 10 for 56 and scored a touchdown. So they're using these backs with Patterson. I think they're going to try to limit his touches. As of right now, though, it's Patterson's job, I think, right now. But I think they just had these guys in there to kind of lay off of his touches for this week. And then on the receiving side, literally nothing going on. Mariota only completed 7 passes. No Drake London. He was 2 for 17. Zacchaeus, 2 for 55, was the leading guy. So I don't know. This, I mean, sure they won and all, but at the same time, I think you got to be a little bit concerned with these pass catchers moving forward until, we see a Desmond Ritter come in and so on and so forth. So enough about that game. Tennessee and the Colts. Tennessee came out and played well in this one. Still not throwing the ball too much, but it was the Derrick Henry show, which we figured I think I called that earlier this week when I said, the way that Tennessee works is when they play through Derrick Henry, they're just going to run. And that's what they did. 22 carries for 114 yards. One touchdown, was targeted 5 times and caught 3 balls for 33 yards too. So he's Derrick Henry. It was a nice bounce back game for him, and I see this kind of production moving forward. The way that they're winning, and that's the recipe for success in this for this Titans team. So with the lone touchdown that Tannehill did throw was to Robert Woods. Robert Woods just continues to be kind of irrelevant. 4 catches for 30 yards. Treylon Burks did leave this game with a severe injury, but like I said, we can touch on that when we get when we get to the waiver wire show, and we kind of know a little bit more of what's going on. I don't want to kind of like speculate on if anybody's going to miss time and so on and so forth. I'm not a doctor. I would rather just see what happens tomorrow when the reports do come out on the severity of these injuries. So on the Colts side, Matt Ryan, pretty decent fantasy game from his point. 356 through the air, 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor, now this is one I will touch on real quick here. Did leave this game with a ankle injury. It's expected. I think I read on Twitter earlier that they're expecting it to be a high ankle sprain. So not good. Looks he's going to be missing some time. So Nyheim Hines and basically Deion Jackson are the plays, the backups if and when Taylor does miss time. We saw a lot. We saw Nyheim Hines did come in. He was the one that was playing a lot more, but just a guy to keep an eye on is Deion Jackson. And if he does miss time, Hines immediately is he's a nice flex play on a week-to-week basis, because I don't think he can give you the same kind of production as Taylor. Well, he definitely can't give you the same production as Taylor. So, but I mean, if he's going to be the number one guy there, I think you can easily at least flex him out. Especially in PPR leagues where we know he catches a ton of balls. So. Tight end Mo Alie-Cox with the 2 touchdowns from Ryan. This one 6 for 85 yards on 6 targets. So he seems like, if you break down the snap counts with these tight ends, Mo Alie-Cox had 45, Kylan Granson 29, Jelani Woods 15. So we did talk about it earlier. Jelani Woods, until he starts to see more snaps on the field, he's off your radar. Slowly creeping up, though, for me, is a guy that you got to keep an eye on is Kylan Granson. He did only play 29 snaps today, but he was 4 for 62. And that is, he has had some production. We're starting to see him pop up a little bit more. How about that? So, I mean, today for today's game, 4 for 62. That was his that was his best game he's had all season. But he's slowly starting to get on the field more. So just something to keep an eye on. They like to run to 2 tight end sets out there, and both Mo Alie-Cox and Kylan Granson are performing. So Pittman was kept quiet in this one, 3 for 31. But I'm not too worried about that. Just he's definitely going to bounce back. He's that good. So Washington and the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys ran all over them, and we figured that's exactly what was going to happen. We'll just start with the Dallas side. 2 touchdowns for Cooper Rush. Zeke, not the greatest game, but he did perform well. 19 for 49. Sorry, not even well. He's mediocre, but he's still, for fantasy purposes, he's still got you some production. Another 2 catches for 32 yards. CeeDee Lamb, 6 for 97 and 1. And we saw Michael Gallup return back from his injury. Did get a scoring touchdown Now, I'll tell you this, Michael Gallup will be one of my priority ads this week in the waiver wire. Um, he was great going into the year or before he got banged up, and it looks like he's still going to be part of the game plan in this one. I think he's just going to start to see more snaps and so on as the weeks go on. So Tony Pollard, on the other hand, very quiet in this one. Only 8 carries for 6 yards, so and 1 catch for 2. So it's Zeke's backfield, and that's the only guy you want to add out there. So and play every week. Now Washington side, another quiet game for Wentz. Did throw it over 40 times again, 1 passing touchdown. Now Antonio Gibson, 13 for 49, not great, and 3 for 14 through the air. There is word that they are going to be activating Brian Robinson as of next week. So if you find him on your waiver wire for some odd reason, you want to go add him. He's most likely going to be my top priority ad this week. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked at any ownership percentages yet, but I'm pretty sure he should be owned in quite a few at least. We saw Dotson 3 for 43 score that lone touchdown. And if I'm not mistaken, he's also another player that got banged up in this one. And Curtis Samuel, not great numbers, 4 for 38. And same with Logan Thomas. He was 5 for 19. So just nothing really exciting on this Washington side of the ball. So big Buffalo Bills and the Ravens, big win for the Bills coming back, to win on the last second field goal. So we can discuss this game from a fantasy perspective. I mean, there was points to be had. Josh Allen started the game out slow. I was a little worried because I do have him in quite a few leagues. Only just over 200 to 210, 213 yards and 1 passing touchdown, but he had 11 rushes for 70 yards. So that we talked about that before. These quarterbacks, these dual threat quarterbacks are ones you're going to want to own because they're the ones that pay off immensely when it comes to fantasy. Devin Singletary, 11 for 49. Not bad numbers. He seems to be a much more productive back than we're used to seeing, and also caught another 4 balls for 47 yards on 5 targets. Stephon Diggs, 4 for 62, and Dawson Knox finally got a little bit going. Only 3 for 40, but he was targeted 6 times. So that's a positive. On the Baltimore side of the ball, very quiet day for Lamar. Only 144 yards through the air, 1 passing touchdown, but again, 11 for 73 on the ground. J.K. Dobbins, 13 rushes for 41 yards, and Devin Duvernay was back. Dobbins also had 4 catches for 22 and did score a touchdown there out of the backfield. So, obviously, if you fired him up and took a chance that he was going to improve his numbers, he definitely did that, and he seems to be close to full health. Devin Duvernay, 4 for 51 on 5 targets. So Bateman, still pretty quiet game, 3 for 17. Mark Andrews, after his big game last week, only 2 for 15 in this one. So Buffalo defense is really good. That's the thing. And Tre'Davious White probably took out Bateman is what I'm assuming happened. I didn't get a chance to watch this game in full, but most likely that is what it was. So I'm not worried about this passing game because they did play probably, if not the best defense in the league with Buffalo. So Arizona and the Panthers, snooze fest game, but Arizona, 207 yards passing for Kyler Murray, 2 touchdowns. Also 12 for 26 on the ground. James Conner, 15 for 55, so not bad. Marquise Brown, 6 for 88 score, and the other score came from Zach Ertz, 6 for 47 and 1. We did see Rondale Moore enter this game. He came back into this game. So all of a sudden, I was kind of curious. I was having a conversation all week with my buddy Trev about Dortch, and I was on the band. I was on Dortch. I was on Dortch's side. From the get-go, said even with Rondale Moore comes back, Dortch is still going to be the man, especially from what he's done. But it looks like not so much. I'm pretty sure as long as Rondale Moore stays healthy, you can pretty much kiss that production that you saw Dortch have for the last 3 weeks, it's pretty much gone. Most likely he's going to be droppable. I'm just going to pick up some snap counts here. Curious to see how many we played. So Marquise Brown had played 71 snaps, Rondale Moore 65, Greg Dortch 27. So that production, especially with Hopkins coming back in 2 more weeks, Greg Dortch, I think, is a drop candidate. Unfortunately, after he's probably won a few leagues for people throughout the last couple weeks. So, but he's safe to drop. On the Carolina side, Baker Mayfield, not even 200 yards passing, 1 passing touchdown. We did see McCaffrey, though, get a receiving touchdown, 9 for 81 and a touchdown, only 8 for 27 through on the ground. So we were concerned about McCaffrey's usage coming into it. He seems to be perfectly fine. He played over 45 snaps compared to Donta Foreman at 4 and Chuba Hubbard at 3. So, I mean, McCaffrey, maybe it is not really severe. These injuries that he is kind of nursing week to week and missing practice time and so on and so forth. So nothing to worry about there. DJ Moore, 6 for 50. He was targeted 11 times. So at least Baker's trying to target DJ Moore. He is their best receiving option, hands down. So he's trying to get him the ball, trying to keep him happy, I would think. And that's really it on this game. Like in this Carolina, pretty sure Matt Rule is probably going to be fired this week because this is an underperforming Carolina team big time. Denver at the Raiders. Raiders won this game 32-23. Finally saw Russ Wilson get going a little bit. Kind of used to seeing what we saw out of him today. 237 yards, 2 scores, also 4 rushes for 29 yards and another score. So 3 total touchdowns on the day. So fantasy managers like myself, very happy with that production. And hopefully that will just continue on a week-to-week basis. Now, big injury on this one here. We saw Javonte Williams leave this game. That from what I read, it's a severe knee injury. Going to be missing a large extended amount of time. So you would immediately think that it's going to be whatchamacallit, pardon me, Melvin Gordon coming in and pretty much taking over this backfield. But in actuality, it was not. We saw Mike Boone actually take over. Like we saw him a lot more. Melvin Gordon just continues to fumble the ball away too. So I mean, you're not going to be playing him if he's going to be fumbling all the time. Melvin Gordon, you are obviously he's going to get a shot to take this backfield, but a guy you might want to add as well on the waiver wire this week is going to be Mike Boone. Because I just think the Broncos are slowly losing faith in Melvin Gordon. KJ Hamler, 1 catch for 55. Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, both very, very productive today. Both had touchdowns and just over 50 yards receiving. So if you had any of those guys, you were loving it today. On the Raiders side, Derek Carr, mediocre game, 188, no passing touchdowns. Josh Jacobs dominated in this game. Saw just how explosive he was. Not used to seeing that out of him, but he had total 28 rushes for 144, 2 scores, and also 5 for 31 through the air. So he seems to be like he's the man there. So if you got him, you're going to fire him up week to week. And other than that, really, Devontae Adams is Devontae Adams, still putting up, getting targeted 13 times in this one, 9 for 101. So good receiving stats for him. Too bad he didn't get in the end zone. This is a crazy game too. New England Patriots versus the Green Bay Packers. The Packers take them down in overtime. So we saw with Mac Jones, Brian Hoyer came into this game, ended up leaving this game early with a head injury. So they brought in the rookie Bailey Zappi, 10 for 15, 99 yards, 1 passing touchdown. So, I mean, is what it is. I mean, he's a rookie. He looked, in my opinion, better than Mac Jones. I think we're going to see, and I do think that Belichick's going to see this in this kid, especially through practice. And, depending on how much time Mac Jones, if this kid gets gets a chance to get loose, he's going to impress, and that's why they drafted him when they did. Belichick's good at these scouting quarterbacks, so we'll see what happens moving forward. This running back game, we saw both Stevenson and Harris. Harris was the more productive back, 18 for 86 and 1 touchdown, and also he did catch 1 ball. It was for negative yardage, so nothing spectacular numbers wise from really any of these receivers, but we did see Devontae Parker get in the end zone for the 2nd straight week. So I don't know. I guess if you want to look at that, great. Now on the Packers side of the ball, 251 yards for Aaron Rodgers, 2 touchdowns. Those 2 touchdowns, one going to one of his favorite targets, and that is Romeo Dubes, 5 for 47. Robert Tonyan did catch a touchdown. Not yardage wise, not great, 2 for 22. But Alan Lazard came to play, 6 receptions for 116 yards on 8 targets. Just I guess fire him up week to week, and also you can most likely flex out Romeo Dubes as well. He seems to be getting production. Both running backs very efficient. A. Jones 16 for 110. AJ Dillon 17 for 73. Neither one scored today. And yeah, we saw Aaron Jones 3 for 6 through the air. So weird game, especially for the fact that they went into overtime, and it was the Packers took them down. I'll just touch on this game real quick. It's still start of the 4th quarter. The Chiefs are annihilating the Tampa Bay Bucks on the Chiefs side. I mean, Mahomes does Mahomes things, 3 passing touchdowns, 247 yards right now. And like I said, it's 9:34 left in the 4th quarter. Starting to see a little bit Clyde Hilaire starting to come out of his shell a little bit. 11 for 64 on the ground, and he 1 for 2 with a score through the air. He also had a rushing touchdown as well. And we're also starting to see a little bit more Pacheco in the second half of this game, 10 for 56. So starting to see that rookie get into more action. And Travis Kelce, 9 for 92, 1 touchdown. So he's probably, if you're playing against him in fantasy, you're most likely not probably going to win this week unless you had a huge lead going into this game. So receiving side of the ball, Schuster seems to be getting targeted a ton, 7 times in this one, 5 for 46 so far. So on the Tampa side of the game, Brady, welcome back to Mike. Is happy Mike Evans is back. Brady, though, almost 300 yards, 2 scores. Those 2 scores came from Mike Evans. But Chris Godwin's slowly getting into action here, 6 for 48. Good to see him back. And we have seen Julio back in there as well, not really doing too much. And, the magnificent stud from last week in Russell Gage is just doing nothing. And you can safely drop Russell Gage, I would think, now, as long as these guys all stay healthy. And this KC defense is just shutting down the run game. They can't get anything going. Outside of Fournette's 5 catches for 39 yards, he's 3 rushes for -3 yards on the day. Rachaad White did come in. He was 3 for 6, did score a rushing touchdown, and also 4 for 39 through the air. So I think they've kind of found something in him that they're most likely going to use moving forward. So but outside of that, guys, appreciate you guys listening. The download numbers were great this week. I appreciate the words of the confident words that were coming my way. I got a few emails on the show and stuff like that. So just appreciate all the support from everybody. If you haven't already done so, please head over to our YouTube channel and hit subscribe and that little bell on the bottom there, just so you could be alerted. We're putting out about 4 shows a week, so we're trying to grind away and put out some content here for you also. Outside of that, we'll talk to everybody on Tuesday with our week 5 waivers. Until then, have a good night. Peace.